So thank you, everybody, for being here. Thank you for making my week. I am so excited about this. I'm very lucky we have the Mayor of Durham. This is the city that Duke University is a part of, and he has kindly agreed to be with me today. So, Mayor Leo, can you introduce yourself?
Well, hello, everyone. Pardon me. I'm Mayor Leo of Durham, the Bull City. And just a little bit about me. I'm a former educator, two-time Teacher of the Year, former administrator, and small business owner. I have a restaurant on campus here, as well as cafe, as well as kitchen at Brightleaf Square, and as well as Ekaya, which is an elevated tapas-style African fusion restaurant at American Tobacco. Being a small business owner and an educator, so an educator to entrepreneur, that landscape, that spectrum, exploring from one side to the other, really helped me understand how to develop, or how the whole person develops from a child who's learning to an adult who's working. And just being able to see that in a political space really motivated me to, buy more into or invest more into my own passion, and that's just to publicly serve. Now, there were some circumstances where it affected us personally in the business, and I felt that small businesses needed a voice in how we play a part of their workforce development in the local economy. Those circumstantial matters, as well as my passion, led me to running for mayor and overwhelmingly winning, and now I'm enjoying the job. I was on council for 2 years, and now here I am.
Hell yeah. So this story of how you ended up running for mayor, it's really tied to people, to community well-being, and also even deeper than that, it goes to environmental health, air quality, hazardous materials. Can you share that story with us?
Yeah, well, for example, communities are made up of multiple demographics, from economic, classes of people to social classes of people. And for too long, those who are less fortunate have been missing in the environmental conversation, as well as the economic conversation. Now, Durham's history is about the Black Wall Street to Tulsa. And somehow our foremothers and forefathers were able to create that, and we have conveniently studied it, but not implemented it in today's time. So as a small business owner, my goal is to resurrect that. And that is why we pay what we pay, we hire who we hire, we give second chances, we do it unapologetically. We do it with pride, actually, because I believe that we should contribute to everyone being able to produce a decent quality of life. Now, on the public side of that, you're right, it is people work. When you take the root word of politics or policy, you break it down to poly, which is really the word people. This is people work. So, as a government, we have invoked our own minimum wage. It's almost over $19 an hour here, because we believe that people should be able to afford. As long as you're putting in the effort, you should be able to afford where you live. But to my initial point, when we talked about trees, when you look at where the trees are in our city, it's in our wealthier neighborhoods. And some may think, oh, it's just a freaking tree. But I think about tree canopy and the importance that it plays to our health and our well-being, especially during the summers, especially with our globe, our earth just warming up, and then you think about, the importance of trees and how they play a role in, when it comes to water runoff or, erosion to our land. That's just a tree. I haven't even gotten into the way we build. I haven't even gotten into the way we zone. All of that plays a part. But Black and brown communities have been absent in those conversations. And unfortunately, most of the people who can afford to be a part of that conversation are the people who have been in that conversation. And I just wanted to invoke equity in that space.
Yeah, 1,000%. Yeah. And thank you for sharing that deep knowledge you have. You are a small business owner, but you wear many hats. And you brought that out in your campaign. One of your platforms was sustainability.
Yeah.
How how are you feeling the perception of that and reception by communities, like our Durham community? And are there any projects in that realm of climate justice, so climate and inequality, that you're very excited about?
Well, yeah, it's and this is I think the first thing we have to do when it comes to climate anything is uncomplicated. We have to speak in a way that it relates to everyone. Mm-hmm. So, when I think about development, for example, we get pushback a lot from residents who say, "Hey, you're building too fast." I'm not against development, but we want you to build responsibly. So I asked the question, what does responsible mean? And they're not used to that rebuttal in a question form. So when they say responsibly, they say, well, maybe slow it down. It's like, okay, so let's look at operationalizing government, how it actually works. We don't control who owns the land. We mitigate how much is built on the land. We don't control who comes here, but we understand that we also don't control the haves and the have-nots. And we're trying to mitigate that as much as possible. So septic in a water system is just unfortunately not healthy for the environment. Mm-hmm. It's just not. And oftentimes the people that are on the what used to be suburban is now densifying. They're on septic, and we have to evolve their systems, their water systems. And the healthiest things for a city is to have people more on water and sewer. Also, we have to think about the past wrongs that we're trying to right, such as Falls Lake. Falls Lake was built in contaminated soil. And so you have residents that are weaponizing the environment. They're saying, you're harming the environment. You're killing the aqua life. You're killing the white-tailed deer. Look at this water in Falls Lake. The nitrate levels are so high. And then you have to pull out the facts and say, well, back in 1981 when I was 1 year old, the actual water, the soil had high nitrates. They built the lake for the purpose that it is, and we had to eventually make our water systems and filtration systems much more robust. Because we had to filter this water, which is where Durham gets this water. Mm-hmm. So don't weaponize the environment to your convenience. Just be factual and understand that part of our sustainability is having a robust system that mitigates past wrongs for our future rights. Mm-hmm. And that's just one way. And now we're looking at an algae scrubber. We're looking at how many more people can we get on water and sewer with the city, and off of septic, having these wells in the ground that are starting to become more contaminated when they start to get cracks in them. And that's happening through development. And also, animals and the animal waste, don't let me get into methane gas. Oh my gosh. That's like the wastewater facility is like my favorite facility in the city because of the methane gas that we produce as humans. We produce so much methane gas that it powers the entire plant. Wow. And then we are having so much excess that we're burning it off. And I'm now looking at how we can store that and sell it or utilize it to power other facilities. That's something else I'm really excited about. And that's our waste. What you flush down the toilet produces enough energy to power 2 facilities that actually filters our waste for the entire city. So there are a lot of innovative things we can do. I'm excited about the new usage of our rooftops, government-owned rooftops, to put renewable energy there, solar panels. But I'm really excited about getting into this UDO rewrite and how we can better shape the way we do development and how we build and where we build in the city. So it's given us an opportunity to be a lot more intentional about it. And I think that, if we can be sensible about our approach to climate, sustainability, resilience, and our action plan can be relative to it, I think we are going to head the right direction. But again, that's Durham doing its part. We need everyone else to see this in a normal sense. We got to uncomplicate it. We can't speak our own language when it comes to climate.
Right, yeah. To that, what does UDO mean?
The Unified Development Ordinance. It is like the Bible of development. It's a love-hate document for me. Ours started out about 13 pages. It was put together by, you know, the wealthiest in our community. When the city was established, you know, and of course, not when it was established, but a little later when UDOs started to be established. They're basically like the constitution of building in a neighborhood, in a community. And but the wealthiest and the most privileged determined the UDO for Durham. It was around Trinity Park. You look at that neighborhood, it's like, wow, this is a lot of wealth. Houses are huge. They have nice big yards, all in the inner tier of a city. But now you want to have smaller units. You want to densify. You want to have mixed housing, like townhomes, apartments, and single-family homes. It doesn't make sense to have big single-family homes in the middle of a city. You want to densify and expand your tax base as much. But also, if you take one city block, you can build 300 units on one city block. Now imagine what that would look like if you had 300 single-family homes. Then you have to take up several city blocks and you're sprawling. So therefore that makes it a little less healthy because everyone is going to have a car. You're driving a lot more. You don't want to do that. You want to densify. You want to make sure you have a robust transit system so people can utilize it. And that's why I don't believe in affordable housing. I believe in affordable living because I believe that you address the social determinants that impact the way we get around, the way we move about our society. I have lost about 15 pounds. I'm a lot healthier. My blood pressure is down because I moved downtown. And I walk or ride my bike everywhere. And so much more active. I'm not spending as much money on gas. I really don't even need a car right now. If I hadn't bought this car before I moved downtown, I would not have bought it. So therefore, I don't have to pay, you know, $600 a month in a car note. I don't have to pay, you know, $200 a month in gas. That's literally that's almost $1,000 extra that I could save. Imagine how that could go toward my rent. Now that's affordable living. And if we can think about that, you know, I know people talk about 15-minute city a lot. I don't think a 15-minute city is as practical in a southern city. I don't think actually in any city until you get to a density level where it does make practical sense. So we also have to stop looking at concepts on paper and trying to like aggressively go for it without making the proper steps forward. You can't just say, oh, I'm not going to approve this development because it's not within 15 minutes. Well, how do you get there? So this stuff is complex. It's a lot. It's not necessarily complex. It's just thinking holistically about how we develop, where we live. And the UDO helps guide that. But the reason why it says a love-hate is because, you know, the folks that created the UDO in Durham created it for themselves. And then we never go back and look at the UDO and say, what do we need to take out? Because there were a lot of things put in place that excluded certain people. And in California, where the first UDO started, well, you know, I was talking about that 300-unit block or 300 blocks. That's what happened in San Francisco. And that is why it's so expensive, because there's such a housing shortage there, because they use so much land for a single person rather than the land for multiple people. But the first UDO in the nation was established to keep the... so we also have to make sure that there's integrity in government, and that also relates to housing.
What was their reason?
Well, there are folks who just don't like police. This was remnants of the defund the police organizers.
And
it's
what was
really
their
unfortunate.
background predominantly?
They work for a nonprofit. I won't call them out on this, but they work for a nonprofit, and their sole mission is to defund the police. And we have a chapter here in Durham, and they're well-funded, very well-funded. So that's in public safety. Don't even get me started on public safety and how we're spending $300 million in infrastructure and 43,000 in gun and gang violence, combating gun and gang violence. That is the disparity. So it's amazing how people come to me as mayor and they say they care, but then I look at what they advocate for, and it baffles me. It really does.
Yeah, that goes back to your intersectionality question. Who are you fighting for? Are you fighting for the cause, or are you fighting for the people? And I do have two questions. So on that note, when people want to advocate, people are listening because they are ideally here to make a difference. What is one action you would tell people they should take on the larger level? Like in their everyday jobs, or if they're even in policy, what should they be doing? And then also on the individual level, is there something that guides you, that helps you feel rooted in that justice aspect, that climate justice and social justice aspect of your life?
Yeah, I think people should put their activism into a formula of 60-40.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about what you're passionate about 60% of the time, and leave 40% of capacity to listen to others, listen to their concerns as well. Get involved honestly, not with an organized group all the time, because whenever you're doing that, you have a very specific approach. There's nothing specific. There's no single lane in politics. There's no single lane in government. There's no single lane in civic engagement. It is always holistic. It is always, there are no narrow doors that you go through because your arms are always spread wide. That is how government works. We are everything to everyone as much as possible at all times.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I'd love a definition from you. How would you, in just a few sentences, 2 or 3 sentences, how would you define the difference between housing affordability and then you said livability? Because in the policy space, especially the progressive space that we're in, you hear affordability a lot.
Yeah, I think that housing affordability or affordable housing is a distraction. What people are saying is, and usually when people are saying how, you need to build affordable housing, they're dictating the builder to build affordable housing. You usually find folks that are as considerate to the business or economics of building housing. You lose money on affordable housing when you restrict the cost. When you restrict the cost, which is illegal in North Carolina. That's another misconception. People think that we can just force developers to do X, Y, Z. You can't, not in North Carolina. But if you are, if you cap the cost at something at a certain amount, then you're addressing, a few people. But when you increase the supply to balance out with the demand, you're affecting the entire economic culture, And when you increase the supply, you also can build and densify in more spaces, which can get you closer to having more people living in a place where they don't need all of the individual amenities that they have, such as cars and so on and so forth. So, when people are walking more, they're exercising more, they're healthier, they spend less in medical.
Yeah.
When you don't need your car, you're saving on gas and car payment. And, when you really take advantage of the public resources around transit and infrastructure, you're now truly becoming a whole citizen or a whole resident. And that has its contribution to our economy. It has its contribution to our environment. It has its contribution to our health as a society. And that is why I advocate for fair, free busing. Because I do think, I tell people I'm like 90% capitalist, 90% conscious capitalist, and 10% socialist. Education, safety, transit, those things should be available for free to everyone, because we're not necessarily for free because you're paying into it with your taxes. But we want to make sure jobs are available. You should be able to get to that job without struggle. It shouldn't be a tax to come to work to make money to pay more taxes.
Right. And you are someone who said you might not even need a car soon. What is one option you'd want for Durham in the coming years for people, for almost all Durham citizens to sustainably not need to use a car?
That's a really big question. And I think that, you need to develop cities from the inside out. But that's not reality. That's not practical, because we don't control who owns what land. We're not going to tell this landowner, well, you can't develop until 30, 40 years because we're trying to go from inside out. But we should encourage, and there are policies that can encourage, to densify your city. But, it's just going to be a matter of time. The more people move here, the more we expand our tax base, the more revenue we have, the more things we can do. I moved our occupancy tax out of the city's general fund to Durham Next, which is a new nonprofit that focuses solely on building assets like a beautiful green space freeway cap. It's a park over the freeway that connects old historic Hayti to downtown, which not only does it repairs the wrongs of the past, it also gives us beautiful green space to be healthier, to walk to convene and commune together. Also, it has an amphitheater, so to generate its own, own revenue. That's a policy that is good for our environment, that is good for us socially, that is good for us economically. Yeah, you just got to do stuff like that, you know.
I appreciate that.
It's intricate details that make a big difference over time.
Yeah, I appreciate your example. Along with your now change from cars, you also did Veganuary in January. What was that like for you?
The first 3 days were hard as hell. Oh my gosh, that was really hard. But I would say after the first week, it's almost like someone injected 2 Red Bulls in me. I went to sleep earlier. I slept better. I used the restroom a lot. Not the grocery guys out. But your body goes through a cleanse. And then you have all of this energy, this burst of energy, and you're waking up. You're walking fast everywhere. You're talking to people more. You're just much more vibrant. You think clearer. You just like, I don't know, you're just a whole new person, but you won't feel it. It's not something you can imagine. You actually experience it when you get there.
Yeah.
And veganism did that to me. I don't think veganism is necessarily mandated or sustainable for someone like me, but it definitely encouraged me by way of experience to be much more intentional about and responsible about how I take care of myself. And awesome. I've had hypertension, high blood pressure for years. When I did this Veganuary, it was 1 month. It was like a 1 month fast, basically. And now my blood pressure is like 120/76. I'm losing weight. I just feel so much better.
Oh.
Now I wake up early in the morning and can't go back to sleep because I'm so energetic. But at 9, 10 o'clock maybe, I'm dozing off. And normally I wouldn't go to sleep until 1. So, yeah.
Interesting. Okay, that's awesome.
It was fun.
What drove you to do it?
I wanted to challenge myself. It's a national movement as well, and my wife and I decided we would give it a shot. And when I said I was going to do it, a resident came into City Hall and asked for a proclamation for it, and I was like, "Why don't we just have the whole city do it?" And she's like, "Really?" And so I wanted to introduce it to other people who normally wouldn't. There were hundreds of people who joined me on this. And, they were like, "All right, Mayor, I'm joining you. I'm going to trust you." And they joined me, and wow. I mean, people were like, "Oh, my God, I had no idea I was capable of this." And that alone, that's a social, reaction that is encouraging people to be a lot more responsible.
Yeah, 1,000%. And our carbon footprint for each meal has, pays dividends, right, if you're eating mostly plant-based compared to meat. So
it
1
has
month
a climate effect, too.
The climate effect is immense, but we can go into that in another time. When I'm thinking about veganism and you, I'm, of course, thinking about Zweli, your wife, and the amazing vegan food that you serve in Zweli's. That was one of my favorites when I first got to Duke.
Yeah.
So I feel like gender is not always talked about in the political field. For example, female politicians are not treated the same never, and when it comes to appearance, etc. But even the household, where women aren't always treated the same. It's a huge part of social equity and the climate. How do we have a sustainable future? It's women and it's all people. So what is your relationship like? I know you always shout her out, and how have you both built this level of trust and love that really shows through?
Yeah, so we appreciate each other's strengths and we nurture our weaknesses. That is constantly, I'm the mayor, I'm the most powerful person in this city. But when I walk through the door at home, none of that matters. My wife is this amazing chef, who has this background, this backstory that is just phenomenal. But what matters when I get home is, she's focusing on me, I'm focusing on her. We are normal, everyday folks. And we just do not let the social determinants outside of our household dictate who we are. Actually, she's the real boss, to be honest with you. But I have to think about so much all the time running the city that, she knows my weakness is, trying to be responsible at home, like doing chores, washing the dishes, and things like that. So she will, in a very nice way, say, you need to wash those dishes.
Mm-hmm.
You know, like, you need to wash the laundry, do the laundry. But at the same time, I don't even worry about the bills. You know, she manages our household finances, or she manages the household responsibilities, you know, because she knows the weight that I have on my shoulders outside of our household. But at the same time, I'm doing what I need to do to make sure she has what she needs to manage our livelihood.
Yeah.
And she runs the business, and I run the city, and we just take care of each other.
It's so beautiful. I came with my significant other to your talk, and we were just reflecting so much on like the depth of love that you have and share.
Yeah.
And I think our last question will be, as someone who you, as you said, are the most powerful person in the city. You came from a background where I was more rural, to my knowledge, and you said that education is part of what brought you here, and now you're running this amazing city. So, as someone who a lot of people look from the outside and can see, it seems like you are someone who has self-actualized, which is a subject a lot of people care about. It's religious, it's personal, it's everything. What advice would you give to a young person watching this about your journey, how you stay true to your values as a leader, especially in this age where there's so many things being stripped from what we care about?
Yeah. So the first thing is, and I don't mean to sound like a cliche, but we really are capable of anything. But your limitations are usually provided to you by your environment that you're around. You know, I didn't know that I can go to college. I didn't know that I could, you know, get a good job. I didn't know that I could do those things because no one around me was doing it. But my mom went back to school and got her degree and was the first in the family. And I remember going to her graduation. I was like, wow, like, why are they wearing those caps like that? You know, but it was a thing. And then my uncle went to college, and I saw him at Elizabeth City. My mom was at Shaw and Wesleyan College, and all I needed to see was it was possible. So my band director took me to NC Central, and you know, where I'm from, you were either white or black, and you were all poor. I didn't start hearing different accents and seeing different skin colors until I came to college. If I had seen you, I would have looked at you like you were a ghost. Like, she's not white or black. Like, something's different about her, you know? That's how I would have been as a high school kid coming out of high school. I got to Central and NC Central, and Zoe was one of the first people I met. And I was just really amazed at the tone of her skin, the clarity, her teeth, just her voice, her accent. And I just started seeing diversity, and I appreciated it. But I also saw, you know, people getting hurt, and it tore me apart because I had such a simple, happy lifestyle. I grew up really poor and didn't know it. So I hated to see people get hurt. I appreciated the diversity of us as humans. And when someone, you know, really paled against that diversity, I didn't like that. And so those natural emotional reactions really were, I thought they were reactions, but really they were parameters in how I am as a person. And that is what let me know what was, well, I guess the difference in good and bad, right and wrong. And, you know, that's who I am. That's how I have grown into who I am today. I never knew that I was capable of being a mayor or a political leader. I didn't know that, but I was blessed to be placed in an environment that provided me my limitations or my limitless-tations. And here I am, you know. I now have been bitten by this bug that I could be anything I want to be. And that's what I'm doing. So I tell people
love
the
that.
same.
Well, we'll see where all of that, your next steps for you, and you're doing an amazing job getting people together because the amount of love for this city is only growing. People are moving here.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm so lucky to have gone to speak with you. I know there's...
To keep certain individuals out of certain neighborhoods. And then New York adopted it to keep the Jews from the Upper East Side. So, yeah, it was used to be a discriminating factor because redlining became illegal, and there was something else that happened. And then after redlining, they basically made it legal by utilizing this UDO document. And now the UDO is the way we do it. And it's like it's almost like making racism legal and now normalizing it.
Right.
And we don't look at it as racism. We look at it as just, it is what it is. And that's just not right.
Like
but
San
it's what we have. Yeah.
Like you have a huge unhoused population because of housing laws.
Yeah.
So what would like your goal be in terms of knowing, first, this is a climate justice issue, this is a housing issue, it's a socioeconomic issue.
Yep.
How do we build or how do we change the UDO so that it's better for people of all economic classes and also okay for the environment?
Well, again, the UDO is designed and built by people initially that it would, benefit to them. Now, UDOs are normalized and they're managed by entire departments, which is a significant bureaucracy. What's missing is how does it relate to the everyday person? Well, it is the document that impacts you the most, even more so than your Constitution. However, no one understands it. I mean, Unified Development Ordinance, that does not sound like normal everyday language. So that's one issue. How do we uncomplicate it and make it relative to other normal everyday folks? That's one. Two, we have to make the UDO accessible and understandable, legible to the everyday person and not just urban planners. Urban planners usually, not all, but some, they are constantly making the perfect the enemy of good. Even in environmental, my first official meeting was with our Environmental Advisory Board. They came up with a almost like a clearinghouse of environmental standards that everything in the entire city had to go through. And I said, guys, you're only looking through your lens. That's very impractical when a city is a living organism of all things at all times. It's not like we're just doing environmental work. And it was very impractical, but they didn't care initially. It was like, well, this is what we care about. And oftentimes, that's how people, there's a segment or an industry that's specifically focused on the UDO, when the UDO is a living document that impacts everyone every day. And so we have to make sure that we are decoding it to where more people can contribute, and just like, banning plastic bags, it sounds good, it, coming from Duke, actually, it's like, hey, we propose a city ordinance to put a 10-cent fee on plastic bags. Well, in real life, how many people are using plastic bags and how to use them? And we realized when we started surveying this that most people utilize plastic bags multiple times. They use it as trash bags, they use it for toiletries when they travel. Also, putting a 10-cent fee and doing it through restaurants was a big hassle. And it was in the spirit of not sending as much garbage to Sampson County. But then when you look at the footprint and energy that it took to make a reusable bag versus a plastic bag, well, when we surveyed, people were like, oh, I keep losing the reusable bag. So conceptually, it was in the spirit of good, but practically, it was not relative to the everyday person. And it was more so if you did a campaign to help people, better utilize this plastic bag, then you're actually getting multiple uses out of that one plastic bag when we're dealing in reality that you have an entire culture that have been using it in so many ways for so long that maybe your approach to go and change the city's laws wasn't the first initial approach. Or best initial first approach. So my point is we have to do more engagement, we have to do more communication, but we definitely have to be much more considerate of, just the masses rather than just our focus. It's a privilege when you can focus on one thing, and that's your thing. But don't try to impose that on everyone without fully understanding how everyone operates. And that is government 101.
Yeah, 100%. And it sounds like the environmental folks are not getting the fact, which is when you have social policies that benefit as many people as possible, especially low-income folks, in a way that's fine for the environment, it's often a loop, right?
Yeah.
When it's good for the environment, it's better for low-income folks. When it's good for low-income folks, we want it to also be okay for the environment. So how are we bringing in that intersectional lens that you're really passionate about in Durham?
Just simply imagine what you think your perfect neighborhood is.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and when I asked this 13-year-old girl this, she was like, I want to be able to go outside and play. And I was like, well, where you want to play when it's hot? She was like, in the park, in the trees. I can climb the tree. The fact that she said park, where in Durham is a place where, they just dumped ash and coal and contaminated our parks. The fact that just not long ago, our more impoverished neighborhoods didn't even have trees in them. Mm-hmm. Those are all issues that we have to address. Yeah. And that is how, you want to make sure that, I always say Taekwon should have the same access to a decent quality of life as Thomas says.
Right.
And so, we think through the lens of policy, let's bring her imagination to life. Let's make sure she has a safe, clean park to play in. Let's make sure she can walk down the street, under a tree canopy when it's hot outside and, not having to suffer from heat stroke, Let's make sure that we aren't, that we are cooling our heat map, with our heat maps, that we're cooling our hot spots. And we can do that by building a beautiful neighborhood. Mm-hmm. So I think, just let your imagination come true. And you can do that by looking, it's already existing in some areas. Look in the Trinity Park neighborhood of Durham. Beautiful houses, trees everywhere. And then look at some of our more impoverished areas. Some have gravel streets, they're open, they're dry, there are no trees, they flood, they're low ground, and that's an infrastructure issue. So we have a lot of past wrongs that we have to right. But I just think that, I think what is the perfect, beautiful space to live in, and everybody should have access to that. Mm-hmm. And that is that holistic approach that we can take as a city. And in order to do that, you have to draft policy that takes us there. But you have to be responsible when drafting policy. You can't just look at a concept and say, we're just going to do this now, and then demonize anything that doesn't make us get there by tomorrow.
Right. 1,000%. You always have the most eloquent answers. We're going to, if we have time, it's now 2 o'clock, we'll ask like a few more policy-based questions, and then 2 more like fun and personal ones, because that's, I know, a really big, a great part of who you are as a mayor is you care about how people, understand who you are. You are a whole multifaceted human being. We want to highlight too. So, on that issue of policy, how do we persist as the environmental justice movement, people who care about social equality and the environment? How do we continue to do so in a time when so many people are elected to offices who are trying to take away these rights and policies?
Yeah, so I do think that in modern day politics, we're doing a better job at having much more of a common view of righting those past wrongs. But I'm going to give you just a multitude of examples, and your listeners are going to have to go back and rewind and listen to it over again. Mm-hmm. There was a project that came to us. That project was, I think, 300 units, and they were all on the higher end. They were about 350,000, 370. On the lower end, about 315,000. And it was, it was denied. It was blocked, and it was blocked by people who say they're the most progressive on housing. Mm. I was like, well, why did you say no? Well, it doesn't have a charge station. It doesn't have the bike lanes. It doesn't have the 10-foot sidewalk. It doesn't have the right buffers. And I'm listening to this, and I'm thinking, wow. So first of all, buffers, that's the amount of space between 2 living quarters, right? Imagine how much land we are wasting with extreme buffers. Maybe reduce them some. Charge stations, I get it, but does every house have to have a public charge station? Or, we do have some right down the street. Oh, it doesn't have commercial either. Well, it's literally a quarter of a mile outside the neighborhood from a very nice commercial center. The bike lanes. Well, you're not going to get bike lanes on both sides in this project. You have to balance the economics of it. And, it may not get bike lanes inside the actual neighborhood. And it just baffled me because the average housing price or cost in Durham is $425,000 a year. I'm sorry, $425,000 for an average home cost in Durham. So that meant this project was 100% affordable. And it was nice. And it was in a part of town that's desperately needing housing. And it was a mixture of homes. And it was either 96 McMansions or 325 multi-type, multi-income housing units. But it was denied because it did not have the freaking bike lanes and charge stations. Making the perfect the enemy of good. We denied that project because I didn't have the votes and one person was missing, so it tied 3-3. And the people who voted against it are the people who say they care about the environment the most, are the people who are, one is an urban planner, are the people who supposedly know about this stuff more than anybody. And that just baffled me, and that is where making political decisions are hurting those most in need. Because also the public who came to fight it was saying, this is not right. You're just kicking people out of Durham, and I can't believe you're going to try and build all of these units. It's going to be bad for the environment. And where are we going to live? And it just baffled me because I asked the question, I was like, so where are you going when you leave here? I'm going home. So you do have a home to live in. So you moved to this area 6 years ago. You do realize before you moved here, you were the problem to the neighbors who already lived there. And that is when we have to force the conversation to be honest. So when we looked at the actual, for sprawling, we put an urban growth boundary around our city. And so we're not building outside of this boundary. So everything we build is going to be infilled. So that's one policy we made. We have the comprehensive plan that determines what should go where. We were meeting the comprehensive plan. I'm a business owner, I own restaurants. I'm not going to put a restaurant in every single residential neighborhood to say, oh, now we have a 15-minute city. I'm not going to do that. But there was a commercial for this neighborhood literally a quarter of a mile away. What else was there? Just the affordability of it. We said no to them, the people who were coming. In Durham, like just less than 10 years ago, we were 289,000 people. Now we're 317,000. We are doubling our pace of where we thought we would be in 2050. So now by 2050, we're definitely going to be about 500,000 people. That we never saw that coming. And so there are folks that, yes, they weaponize the environment. They do have real concerns. What did we do? We put a policy in place. This is where you're balancing it out. We said, all right, we're going to deregulate this UDO some because there are some things in it that are just hurdles that are so unnecessary that's making the cost of development, not necessarily the cost of housing yet, but the cost of development much more expensive. So we need to deregulate some of these things because the end user is where the cost is being passed off to. So we did that. But then we have to think about the environment. So we put a water erosion and tree preservation policy in place. And what that means, if you have 100 yards of land and you clear cut it, you can only do it 20 yards at a time. Now, that means that a clear cut, equipment would have to come out 5 times. That does cost more, but when you balance it out, it doesn't cost as much as what we were dealing with before. So that's how we juggle and twist and turn cost versus environment versus housing demand. So that's why I said they have to go back and listen to all of this because it's a lot. And when the Planning Commission says, we deny this because, you didn't engage with the residents enough. That's not. I mean, it's like, did the developer follow the law? Did they notice twice? Did they have 2 meetings? Yes. Well, I didn't know about it. That's on you, and we have to, now and this is outside of environmental or whatever, but this is in politics. Governments, especially at the local level, have now evolved to thinking that, and individuals as well, residents, thinking that the government must respond to the individual. when the individual is actually a part of the people.
Mm-hmm.
And governments respond to the people.
Mm-hmm.
That is why we have a representative government. And when you are always taking your government and trying to make it respond to the person, that means you're responding to who shows up in the room. And most of the people who show up in the room are the people who have the privilege to show up.
Mm-hmm.
And that has hurt us in public safety when the few showed up really loud and said, oh, get rid of ShotSpotter. We don't want that. We're going to over-police the black and brown neighborhood. We vote that policy down. ShotSpotter is a sound detection technology that goes off and triangulates whenever a gun is shot. And it was helping us get to the scene faster.
Mm-hmm.
We found a 90-year-old girl who was shot and bleeding out that no one called 911 for. There was a shootout in the middle of the night one time. A bullet went through this professor at NCCU's bedroom. No one called 911. So it was really helpful. But when we got rid of it, the black and brown community came and said, what the hell are you doing? It's like, well, the community came and said we didn't want it. It wasn't the community. It was a few organizers who came and pushed back on it.
This episode was co-produced by videographer Maxwell Simbua and myself. Thank you for joining us. And I'm deeply grateful to everyone who made this podcast possible. Special thanks to Devin Henry and my parents and family, Sreenivasan, Roopa and Krishnan, and my twin brother Krishna for their listening help. The one who truly made invaluable contributions to the creation of this was my podcasting professor, Alison Jones. I learned invaluable audio skills from workshops at Duke's Dewitt Wallace Center, led by professors Barry Yeoman and Stephen Buckley and NPR's Emily Feng. Thank you all for your support and wisdom. super show. Oh my god. Okay, we're rolling. This is hilarious. The height difference. I'm sitting so much in front of Mayor Leo, but I'm so much shorter. But that's okay. Everyone is different. Okay. So thank you everybody for tuning in today. Yes. Oh yeah. Take your time. Take your time. But look, you're repping that Duke now. Dang, I didn't realize.
Yeah.
We should get Durham water bottles.
Really should, you know.
I would rather rep that, personally.
Should be in blue. Yeah.
True.
We need to integrate our advocacy.
Oh no.
You guys did a good job with the bullhorns, but then it wasn't communicated well.
Mhm.
A lot of Durhamites took offense.
Oh, that's very fair. I mean.
They took offense because it was like Duke said, Duke did this. Put up your Dukes. When this is very cherished to the Bull City, like the Bull City.
Right. So we should do this to represent Durham. And personally, like, I love like going into Durham because Duke, we have like this huge wealth bubble, as you know.
Mm-hmm.
And in this last semester, I've definitely wanted to like go to different events y'all are hosting and understand what Durham really is about.
Yeah, you'll see it tomorrow. I'm doing it's an economic empowerment summit in wealth building and home ownership, how to do all those things. And we've never done that before. It's a tour.
Oh, I remember you talking about this. For the city of the stuff. Okay. Very exciting. Take your time. We're
All right,
not in a rush.
Before y'all start,
Yes.
maybe y'all should switch, because that'll actually make you smaller in the frame, and it'll, like, you know what I mean? Instead of her being closer.
Oh.
Just
That's
no,
right.
you stay in your chair, you just move your chair closer as she moves forward.
Oh.
No, I look
But
bigger.
no, not too much,
I look bigger.
Right.
I was trying to make her closer to the camera and me further away that.
Yeah, it didn't pin out of that, I thought.
But
Okay.
we can't cross our legs because that's going to show the depth.
Oh.
That's why I'm now, because all the news anchors are so much smaller.
So you figured it out.
Yeah. Yep.
There's a trick to it. Okay.
That actually looks better.
Okay.
It looks better than before.
All right.
Cool. Okay.
I'm ready.
Awesome. We'll get started.